up, guys? Right around New Year's, I bought it as a Christmas present to myself because there was a fish tank sale. I caught it, it's herpes, and I embraced it. So if you're here, you probably already know, but just in case, these are Pea Puffers. They are 1 inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch really, fish that is totally unique, has a great personality. They interact with you. They're a lot of fun, and they're not like every other fish out there. They swim differently, and they are really truly unique, and they're fun to watch. You can be found in the rivers in India and usually in slow moving waters. When you're setting up your tank, we want pretty slow moving water and floating plants and a lot of dense coverage. In this tank, I really wanted to keep it simple. I didn't want to have a whole lot of stuff going on. So what I've got was I got an easy flow filter, and I used the battery backup air pump with it, and a little Aqua Clear 20, and that's a UV sterilizer. And that's a little trick that I do with a piece of a water bottle that I've cut, because that downflow, if you look where that is, that would be slamming them down right now. That would be pushing water down, and it just doesn't, they don't like it, and that's too much flow. So this sideways flow out of this UV is great. So even if I'm not using the UV, I just let the water run through it. They're best kept in tropical temperatures, say 74 to 82 tops. I like to run my tanks a little bit on the low side, and the little tip is that that water temperature is directly related to growth. So if you're trying to grow something and speed up its metabolism, raise the temperature. But at the same time, that speeds everything up. Now, these are carnivorous fish, so I'm feeding bloodworms, baby brine shrimp that is frozen, or I'm raising myself and then I'm feeding frozen brine shrimp. I've tried other types of things, and they haven't really taken to it, glass worms and stuff like that, but I think the live thing. Now, I do have a lot of snails. We eat Malaysian trumpet snails, bladder snails, and occasionally if I have ram's horn snails. That's kind of like the treats. Those are like the Tic Tacs of life, and I'm always diversifying their diet, and that's very important because, you know, diversity in that nutrients. So definitely diverse diet, all meat. They don't eat any vegetables, and that is a big part of who you're going to keep in the tank with them. Now, I have some algae in here, and if we get graced with their presence, I have 3 Otto syncluses, one named Otto, and they basically are the algae keep up team, and they do a pretty good job. I want to add more, but I'm afraid that then they will be too much and won't be able to satisfy them. And I do feed my Ottos frozen cucumber, and so that's another way that you can help make sure that they're getting a complete diet. But basically, no fish that's going to eat the same food that they're going to eat, or we're going to have fights. You need to really say, I'm going to commit to this, because they could live for a pretty decent lifespan, and some people say up to 10 years. So one thing everybody asks me, do they puff up? And no, and it's a defense mechanism, and you don't want to see it. Now, if you get lucky, you may witness it, because it is a muscle and they exercise it, and they may do it. I've personally never seen my pea puffers puff. Something really serious happens if you puff them in air, and they can get airbound, and then you have to burp them, and that's just going to be a traumatic experience for everybody involved. I recommend, if you ever need to move them, what I always do is I net them. I never take them out of the water. I get them into some sort of container, glass or something in the tank, and lift them out with that water. They never come out of the water. So if they feel threatened enough and they puff, they're still in the water, and then they can deflate themselves. If they take in air, they can't deflate. And I'm no biologist. I'm just telling you what I've learned. And fortunately, I've never had the experience. And so far, so good. How do you tell males from females? And this is a big problem when you're stocking the tank, because you want a ratio of usually more females to males. So how you tell male and females apart is The males will have a black stripe down their belly and the females won't. And the male's coloration is a little bit different and a little bit brighter yellow, but they will change color and they can get very bright when they're excited or when they're trying to spawn. The problem is that when you're getting them, when they're really juvenile and they're still babies, it's nearly impossible to tell. So with an ideal 2 or 3 to 1 female to male ratio, I got super lucky that I've got 3 females and 3 males, and everybody's getting along. They eat together. I don't have any issues, and nobody really fights. There's no food fights, and I think that's because I make sure there's an abundance of food, but I'm also making sure to take care of the tank and change the water and clean it. Because you can't really have snails. Now, I will add snails to this in an abundance so they can hide. And I think that mental stimulation of them seeking out and hunting, they're very curious. They always want to do something. They interact with you. I've had pea puffers that eat from my hand. These guys, a few of them will eat from the pipette, but nobody really wants to see my hand. But I had one that would actually eat from my hand. They need snails? Probably not. I've never heard of anybody with any sort of overlap bite problem with the pea puffer. So that's really reserved for the bigger puffers that are meant to like crack clamps and stuff. So the best practices for buying them when you go to the store is to ask them to see them eat. You want to see them eat and want to know what they're feeding them. And then the second thing is that they are been treated, or where are they coming from? And if they haven't treated it themselves, then I would say take that in consideration in the price. That the higher dollar ones that I was looking at were all at least went through 1 treatment, and then when I got them in, I quarantined them and I ran them with ParaCleanse just to make sure that they didn't have any tapeworms before I brought them into this and any other parasites. And everybody looked super healthy, round bellies. They told me they were feeding them bloodworms. It's right on their website. Like, they're disclosing the right information up front, and that let me buy with confidence. So definitely do your homework, and I would recommend following those kind of basic guidelines to help you buy good fish. Tank setup. I think there's some things to keep in mind when you're trying to build a tank that's going to inhabit these 6 pea puffers, and we're going to be able to really give them the best possible areas. And if you look at it right now, like, you can't even see them. It's kind of like bedtime, which is good because you can kind of see where everybody just kind of hangs out. And even though you have all this area, they're really just, they blend into that background, and that's what they want, that security. So I think the duckweed, I caught it, it's herpes, and I embraced it. And I think that when it helps with the water parameters too, it gives them that overhead coverage. And now you're gonna read a lot of things that say they're jumpers. I've never had one jump. I'm also stickler for water quality. I'm a very big believer in stability is the answer. It's not about the number, it's about keeping the numbers stable and not moving around. They'll adapt into most anything. They have a very wide range of what their water parameters can be. And I think anything that's good in, say, the mid 7s, to maybe 6, 8, I wouldn't really want to push them down into that level, but they would be fine in that area. Fast growing stem plant like this Pogo stemma pilatus, I'm gonna massacre that name. We're just gonna call it the octopus plant. So super fast growing, a lot of shoots and leaves. They love to swim through it. So in their natural habitat is riverbank, and there's a lot of roots and grasses and stuff like that. So they're used to swimming out and just, they're eating, anything small, and just pecking away. So I think that kind of dense coverage, you want to give them some swim area, and you want to have an area where you can view them and see them. Setup wise, lots of hiding spots, lots of overhead coverage, things they can swim in and out of. Some people say that, they have problems with the ottos in them, and really, I have no problems with the ottos in them. The ottos really are the nicest fish ever, and they just stay out of the way, and they're not competing for food. So it's nothing more than just maybe get out of my way because it's a territory thing, but the otto just moves. He doesn't want to fight. So keeping up on the tank is really more about changing the water and getting it done. And because we can't really have anything like snails or shrimp in there processing that out, it is a little bit more of an accelerated maintenance. But what's nice about that is that I can show you right here how you can do it in under 10 minutes.